So you talked a little bit about your background, went to college and trade school. So could you tell us a little bit about how you got to your position and how that relates to what you're doing right now as far as trying to build the workforce for manufacturers in the region?
Yeah, so my career path is actually, I tell students, they kind of actually find it's very unorthodox.
Yeah, most of ours are.
Going from, college to a trade school, because I started in one path, college really wasn't for me, went into a trade, I enjoyed the trade. I got many certifications in welding, and then I kind of went into the industry and, grew my career path. I started out really just sweeping floors, getting tools for people. Within several years, I worked my way up. I was a quality inspector at a steel company, worked my way up again. I actually became the production supervisor of the entire floor. With those skills, during that time period, I realized I need to go back to school again. Went back, obtained that college degree, and then kind of COVID hit, and that odd area where employees really just were leaving. They were going to other jobs. The resources we had to provide, the market kind of shifted. And instead of the employees needing the employers, really the employers needed the employees more. And we really couldn't find slots. There were one guy working multiple jobs, hours picked up, and it became very difficult to fill those positions. It used to be you could find a whole pool of employees with the skills needed for the job, and you pick the best one suited. It shifted to where it was, okay, we're going to take the best working employee and give him the skills he needs. So you're paying to get him those skills. You're doing on-the-job training more. You're not hiring a veteran in the field. And I think that's where that labor gap and that shortage of employees just really pushed of like, what's going on? Like, why is this happening? And, I kind of had a career shift where it was like, how do I get involved more with being the front man on finding out like the issues? And I realized getting into schools, there's kind of a stigma involved with this next generation as they don't want to work. There is that stigma of, like why aren't they getting the skills? And I think it's not so much that they don't want to work or be there, they're asking why. And that's a big reason why what I wanted to figure out is like, where's this, like what is happening? Getting into this career opportunity has really evolved and allowed me to really get into these school districts, figure out the reason why. And it's basically coming down to there are students that want to work. It's just getting the involvement and getting them the exposure to these jobs. And that's really what this job is all about, is finding the exposure, getting the trades actually into the classroom and talking. One thing myself I never had in high school was, here's a video on what you can do. Here's a, go online, you're going to read this article, this is what this job does. But our resources now are so evolved, I'm getting students, on a job site. They're working with the workers and they're getting involved and they're seeing, this is what I will do every day for the rest of my life as a career. And some come back and say, man, I really wanted to do this. I hated that. That was awful. But that's the exposure. Sure. That's the exposure that's really needed now.
It's good to learn that then.
Yes. Learn it now before you spend the next 4 years pursuing that and realizing, I hate this.
Yeah.
So I think, that's really what caused the career shift, and that's why I really just enjoy what I do and I'm very passionate about it, is just because I'm gathering that next generation of workers and the ones that are asking the why. Well, like, why do I need to go to college? Why should I go into a trade? And I encourage that because they're really making sure the decisions they're making for their life are there and they're the right ones. And that's where, we work a lot with students and employers to really match that and find the right fit for the students.
And so you mentioned, you've seen firsthand the worker shortage here in the Valley locally, and I just wanted to put this out there for the viewers. This is a Deloitte study that was done in 2021 that found they estimated by 2030 there would be 2.1 million unfilled manufacturing jobs in the country. So this is something that's happening not just here, but it is with our manufacturing background, I think it's probably a bit more acute here than it is in other parts of the country. But I guess you talked a little bit about the generation and the stigma of them not wanting to work. So I guess as you've been doing this and as you've been watching these kids get introduced to these programs, what has the feedback been? Do you see some traction being gained?
Yeah, so I mean, just to follow up on that, already just this year we have 56 students declaring themselves into the trade.
Right.
I know that's not a life-changing number. As you said, there's so many jobs that are going to need filled. But that 56, I know there probably wouldn't have been that 56 without career counseling, without getting the exposure, without...
This program's new, too.
Yeah, this program is still evolving and getting
Right.
into more schools and getting the development. And it's just, I mean, our staff at the ESC through Rob Eggleston, our coordinator, and Sandy Ferrano, the director, is just pushing this and really just developing it into what it is today. And, you know, the feedback from the students, just they want to have a job where they're going to make good money and just really just build a career. I think career happiness has really shifted a lot, and just answering that question of why. Like, why am I going to do this, and what is my passion? And I think through career counseling, we evolved with, you know, career assessments, personality assessments. We help develop and say, okay, this is kind of the career path you want to take. This is where you're really going to fit. And then the building trades just builds that in. If a student is going to work in the building trades, it's just finding out which trade, because they're so different. There's so many.
Right.
I mean, manufacturing, just because it's my background, I've done it. That may not be what a student wants to do. They might want to do carpentry, or I have them. Electrician is a huge job right now. The kids really like the electrician side of things. Heavy equipment operators, they like the idea of getting to run heavy equipment. And then it's just getting them the exposure, and that's really where these job shadows and getting them talking to the right people and that networking aspect of, you know, having a union representative come in and show the students this is exactly your career path from year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4. This is what you're going to make each year. That's what they want. They want to know, and then they could take that home, discuss it with their parents, and help make those decisions. And that's really what's changing the shift, is just the pure exposure through these programs, what the students are, you know, getting to see and getting exposed to.
Right. What are do you have any tips or advice for employers as to what type of workplace this generation is looking for?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that they like to see is they come in, they see a clean shop, safety, clean shops, something interesting. They do like the involvement of getting hands-on, but also if you can show them something that's like technical and applicable, robotics. 3D printing is huge. A lot of the school districts have mini versions of 3D printing, and these kids are making all kinds of different things. All those things shift in terms of, instead of it used to go in, oh, I want to work here because I want a job. Now they're going in and saying, what does this place have to offer me? And that's where a company that has, you know, the wow factors. This is what we have to offer.
Right.
Look what you're going to be doing. Any piece of machine, or getting the student in front of that machine and just saying, look at what this does. And that's the biggest thing. And employers now just really have to show them what they have to offer to these students.
And I guess, what's the general, we've kind of talked a little bit about it, but what's the general environment that you're getting from employers? What are they saying? What are they looking for? What's the job climate like that they're seeing?
So the biggest thing we're getting from employers, and the kids talking to the employers coming into the schools, talking with students, almost everyone's the same. We don't need you to come in as a skilled worker. We just need you to show up, be on time, be present, and have a willingness to learn. And that's the number one thing that these employers want. And then from the students' aspects, they're just looking for, you know, respect, a fair wage, working hours. What's my working week going to look like? I've seen a big shift of long work weeks. Some students aren't interested in that. The 40, 50-hour work week is more, you know, appealing than saying we're on overtime 68-hour weeks. And
then any other programs or any other resources that schools or businesses should be aware of if they have questions or anything like that?
Yeah, of course. Our BAC, our director, Sandy Ferrano, get in touch with your local ESC. Our BAC, the Business Advisory Council, is huge. We're up to about 95 members, and just the involvement of the BAC and how they're used, that's where we're pulling these companies from, for job shadows, career fairs. We're bringing these companies, we're getting them exposed. One, the student's getting exposed to what the company has to offer, and two, the company's getting exposure out there and getting in front of a student. Now, maybe the student's a junior, so it might be 2 years before employment.
Right.
But 2 years from now, I'm sure you're still going to have open slots in that company where you're going to, the gap is going to continue. So I think it's important to get out there, be aggressive, and just get involved. I know most companies are going to want that veteran guy, the guy that can come in, run the machine, know what they're doing, and just get to work. But I think it's important that these companies also need to figure out that there's a whole pool of employees sitting in local school districts that might not be ready right now, but in the next several years they're going to be. And that's going to be the people that are going to fill this next gap of employment.
717 Credit Union. Business services designed to meet your daily needs. Commercial loans, business deposits, merchant and payroll services. 717 Credit Union. It's knowing you were treated right every time.